Hey everybody, my name is Mark, and today I'd like to introduce you to my pride and joy. All right, so I got a little surprise for you. I did a review of a 1911 a little while ago, and I just kind of couldn't help myself. I wanted to share this with you because this is my prized possession. This is probably the favorite weapon that I have. Um, I've got I got a bunch of guns. Uh, the one next to this that's probably my favorite is a new Scorpion, and I run a suppressor on that. Uh, I really like that weapon a lot. But as far as handguns go, this is probably one of my favorites. So before we start, I'm gonna make sure that this weapon is safe, and this weapon is loaded, so I feel safe. Just kidding. So we're gonna unload this weapon. Federal HSTs, man, I'm trying to tell y'all. And we're gonna check, and we're safe. So this is a Langdon tactical version of the Beretta 92G Elite. And so Langdon Tactical is a company, it's run by Ernest Langdon, excuse me, and he basically does customizations. I think he started on Berettas, but he's got a few different weapon platforms that he does now. There's a couple of Berettas, actually. I forget the other one. It's not one that I've ever really been interested in, but he seems to like it. And so he's kind of tricking that one out. And then he's got a couple of others, I believe. But it all kind of started with the 92 platform. So basically what he does is there's two different ways. He started getting Berettas straight from Beretta, and he would install like a, kind of an augmented, modified package in the trigger group, and the barrel is different. Some of the hardware for the decocker or safeties, if it's so equipped, that's different. So he kind of tricks them out. And they were so popular that Beretta started getting some of his stuff, trigger packs especially, and they would install them at their factory and then just sell them as LTT versions. And you can see even when it is, the serial number starts with LTT. So this gun is a little different because this actually went through his facility. And so this isn't just a trigger in a bag or a Langdon trigger that Beretta has put in. This actually went through Ernest Langdon's facility. They put the trigger in, they tuned the trigger, and it's like a totally different deal. So when that happens, it makes this kind of a special weapon, because in a second when I show you the trigger, it's just kind of insane how smooth this trigger is. So for anyone that's not real familiar with the 92 platform, this does not have a Browning lockup, right? So this barrel is stationary. A Browning lockup is kind of a tilt barrel, so basically whenever the slide actuates, it comes back. At the same time, the barrel will kind of tilt up a little bit. And so it drops the breech down, and when the slide actuates and it's going forward, it strips around off the magazine, and the barrel's tilted down, and so it pushes that onto the feed ramps and goes into the barrel. And then it locks back down again, and the slide is in battery, and so it's ready to go, right? But that's a lot of movement for the barrel. It works, and a lot of weapons use it. Most of my handguns are Browning lockups, but Beretta is a stationary barrel. And so because of that, the magazine rides higher in the frame, and it still, has a round stripped off the top of the magazine, but it has like not as far to go. And so it goes right into a stationary barrel. And so since the barrel never moves, the 92 platform is inherently more stable and because of that more accurate than some other weapon platforms. So this, because, and the, it's a very heavy gun. So this is a chunk. And because of that, because of the weight and because of the stable barrel and just because of the fine tuning from Ernest Langdon, this is an unbelievably accurate gun to shoot. This will make anybody look good. You take this to the range and you fire off some rounds, and you know, even a seasoned shooter will kind of be amazed at how accurate this gun is. So the reason that is because mostly the trigger. So the trigger in this gun, it's unbelievably, like, this is a double single, right? So it's double action, single action. So if you have a round in the chamber, you can basically pull the trigger and it will go off the first time. But when that happens, the slide will actuate, and then you can see the hammer's back, and that's the way it fires every time after that. So the way it works is his triggers are so smooth that most people don't like double action, even on a double single. Like, you know, I've had SIGs that are double single, and most people don't like the first trigger pull because it's a longer trigger pull and it has a lot more, you know, force that it takes. So it's a stronger trigger pull. But this one, and I have actually one other one. I've got an HK that's a variant 7. It's a law enforcement modification. And HK triggers are a little different. The variants are a little different. I think there's 10 variants. And so they have to do with how the trigger's set up and what side of the weapon either the safety or the decocker is on. So left or right. And with HKs, if it's an odd number, that means it's on the left, and even numbers are on the right. And so 1 through 6 variants would be, you know, a decocker or a safety, or, you know, both, and it's either on the left or the right side. And then you get up to variant 7, which does not have either. There's not a decocker or a safety, and it's a law enforcement modification, and so it's double action only. But that trigger was done by, it's kind of smooth anyway, but I like tricking things out. And so I sent that in and had Ghost Guns, or Gray Guns, I guess, do the trigger on that one. And it is unbelievably smooth. Even the double action, all the time, it's always double action. It's crazy smooth. And so is this one. So when you pull the trigger on this, usually there would be a hitch or something like that, and a long, really hard trigger pull. This one is just super smooth. And even on a double action only, if you get, you know, if you train on the trigger enough, then you know where the wall is. So you can basically stage a double action trigger. So when I get this weapon, I can stage it to here just automatically without even thinking about it. And then I know that I'm really close to, you know, breaking my shot. And so I can, you know, finish. But then when it cycles, the real magic happens. So the reset on this trigger, and it's going to be hard to show, is right here. And so there are times when you really don't even see your finger move. You feel the tendon in your finger relax and this trigger will reset. It's just absurd how smooth this is. That trigger pull is really easy too. I think it breaks at like 3 pounds or 3.5 pounds. It's basically like a 1911 trigger. And so it's an amazing trigger. And if anyone wants to know how Ernest Langdon could possibly make such an amazing trigger, Marine Corps, baby, it makes a difference. So he knows what he's doing, and I trust him. Uh, but yeah, this gun, it's by far my favorite handgun. It may be my favorite handgun that I have ever owned, and that is saying something. This one does not have a safety, but it does have a decocker. So if the hammer was back and you decided not to, break a shot, basically, you could just decock it, and it'll fall, on a breech block up here, and then you're not firing the weapon. So you can keep one. That's how you actually load it and put one in the chamber. So if you wanted to carry this hot, like condition two, basically, you would basically put your magazine in, rack the slide, get around in the chamber, and then use your decocker, bring the hammer forward, and then it's ready to go. When you do that, I believe it may be the HK that I'm thinking about. I think it is the HK. So on the HK, if you do the same thing, there's no decocker, but it stages the trigger for you. And so the trigger, it's a striker fired weapon. And no, that's not true. I've got a bunch of AKs, and I think the one I'm talking about, a double single, so it does have a hammer. So, but basically, it will kind of smooth out the first trigger pull, so it's not even a normal double action pull. So when you have a round in the chamber and you put the hammer back, just manually, then the trigger, with the first time you pull it, it's kind of like after one has already been spent and the slide is actuated, and it's a really kind of easy trigger pull and not as long. So that's kind of a handy thing. But this one is not like that. So when the hammer's back and you decock it, it's still going to be like a long double action trigger pull, albeit like a super smooth one. But then after the slide actuates, and my finger kept moving after that. And it's kind of weird because none of this stuff actually, the reset on a trigger doesn't matter to me, right? Because I don't ride the reset. Every time I fire, I come off away from the wall, and then I come back the other way. And I do that on purpose. And the reason is I don't want to have to think in two directions when I'm firing, rapid fire shots. So I only want to think in one direction. And so when I'm firing, I will let off the trigger way past the wall, not all the way out, but far enough where I know, it's well past the wall. And then by the time the cycle or the slide cycles, I'm bringing it back in, and I only have to think about the one direction. I don't have to think about how far do I go to meet the wall and then bring it back. I'm always out, and I'm bringing it back to the wall every time. You can feel the reset in this, but it doesn't really matter to me. It does to a lot of people. But the hysterical part is when you hear people talk about an audible and tactile reset, right? So an audible reset, like being able to hear a click in your trigger, the whole idea of that's kind of preposterous. So if you're shooting with ear pro on, you're not going to hear that little click. There's no way. And if you happen to be shooting without ear pro on, the only thing you're going to hear after your first round goes off is just buzzing and screaming in your ear. So the whole idea of like an audible reset to me doesn't make sense at all. But some weapons, like I've had Glocks, and you can't really feel the reset very much sometimes. And I'm not a trigger snob. Like I'll train on anything, and I will shoot anything, and I don't care what it is. I will shoot it. So I can train on any trigger. Glock triggers are not that great, most carry weapons, like I don't change out parts in a carry weapon that I'm going to carry with aftermarket parts that I put in. This is different, and that HK is different, but everything else I just keep a stock trigger. And stock Glock triggers are not great. That's like 5.5 pounds, 6 pounds, something like that. And they're not, they're kind of gritty and they're kind of squishy. it doesn't matter because you train on it and it's going to be fine. So yeah, I'm not a trigger snob, but I do appreciate a really nice trigger. I've got a Geisley two-stage trigger and an AR, and that thing is just insane. I think the first stage is like a little less than 3 pounds. And then the second stage, when you break the shot, is almost 2 pounds. So, you know, a gnat could land on the trigger. Uh, it's not something that you'd want to carry, you know, it's just kind of fun range day type stuff. I would never, you know, carry a weapon like that out in the field because it's, you know, that's a hair trigger, so I wouldn't do that. But anyway, yeah, this trigger is absolutely phenomenal. And this entire weapon is just fantastic. I love this weapon. I changed these grips out. The ones that come with it, that's another thing that LTT changes. So they have their own grips that they put on it, and they're great, but they're so sharp, you basically have to wear gloves. If you fire, you know, if you fire 100 rounds just barehanded with the grips that Langdon Tactical puts on that weapon, or the one that, you know, this comes with in the box that I've still got, your hand is sore. Like it is, that is sharp, and it's way too sharp to shoot without gloves. So I had been looking at these for years actually, and I couldn't find a 1911 that I was gonna, you know, that I was comfortable putting them on. But then I got this and I saw that they made it for a Beretta 92, and it just kind of fit. And so, you know, this little skull and crossbones, it kind of matches the barrel, and because it's kind of silver inlaid. So it's not just like a sticker or anything that's on there. That's actually like inlaid into the grip. And so, yeah, I love this gun, and I'm just kind of gushing. I just wanted to share this with you because I like it so much, and I was hoping, you know, you guys would get a kick out of it. I am not going to do a lot of gun reviews on this knife channel. The first one was just kind of a fluke, but then it got me thinking about this, and I really wanted to share this. But like I said, I've got, you know, so many handguns, and I'm not going to turn this channel into a gun channel. But anyway, I hope you like this. That is the Langdon Tactical Beretta 92G Elite, and it is a bad bitch. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it.